3000.
What is doing? My name's Maloney. This is the 3000 podcast. I'm joined today by a rapper, a cinematographer, a man of many names, Jimmy Barr, GPR, James Barr, Ilresponce, the cat's meow, fucking, I don't know, come up with something else. But it's James Barr. Jimmy, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me on, Maloney.
This is an interesting one because I know you pretty well, and whenever I talk to people that I know well, I have to pretend that I'm like, you know, learning new stuff.
Yeah, I can understand that.
You've got an interesting history, so it's going to be fun to talk about. So Let's start, as we always do, in the beginning, man. Whereabouts in Melbourne did you grow up?
Well, I grew up in Bentley, pretty much Bentley area, Bentley McKinnon. Spent most of my childhood there, and then moved around close, like to Moorabbin and stuff. But you know, most of my crew and my family and stuff were in Bentley.
So let's say the inner southeast. Is
Yeah,
that what we
inner
call it?
southeast, I would definitely say. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And what is a young Jimmy doing in the inner southeast in the late 80s and early 90s?
Well, late 80s, man, I was, you know, still quite young, so I was just hanging at parks and stuff, but at school. Yeah. But, yeah, look, as the 90s, we got into the 90s, I started, you know, hanging out at stations and doing some art, doing some graffiti, doing some music stuff.
It doesn't matter who I get on this show, there's always some graffiti fucking like thread. It always comes back to graffiti. Everybody.
Yeah, it's funny. But yeah, we just we all connected through that art, and that art then sort of pushed me into music. So
okay, so you're actually like
breakdancing.
a child of the four elements.
Yeah, pretty much. You know, and I was like a late starter for DJing as well. But you know, I did a bit of breakdancing, did a couple of classes in Sydney, did a couple, you know, couple of things here in Melbourne. But it was mainly the graffiti, and then it went into the rap. You know, I'd aspire to be like a certain artist, or you know. And then when I heard music, I was like, "Whoa, what's this?" And we started rapping, freestyling on the street, beatboxing. You know, going out, just yeah.
But is it through the like? You know, videos? Is it older people that you're seeing? You're just hearing hip hop, you know, at parties? Like, how do you come across this sort of stuff?
Well, we were always sort of like, you know, we were listening to the radio show with Bias B a lot, and hearing new tracks and new artists, and other friends would introduce you to new artists. You know, I was listening to a lot of Onyx and. The radio show was playing a lot of Necro at the time and Ill Bill, so I was like listening to that stuff. Bias B's mixtape, obviously, just like on heavy rotation. And you know, back in the day, when those days we didn't have CDs, and I mean we had CDs, but we didn't have like access to a lot of music, so everything was taped off the radio, or we'd record it, or we'd have to buy the tape. But if you're going to spend that sort of money on a CD, which was like $36 or something, or whatever for an album, you'd smash that album. Like, if you like the artist, you buy it. And then, like, I remember listening to, like, Onyx and, like, even the Bias B tape and, like, other tapes, and just having them in my Walkman and playing them for 6 months, like, flipping the tape, just listening to the same songs, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
And that sparks something in you when you're like, okay, I'm hearing dudes rap. I can do this. I can write my own rap.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, no, Beastie Boys was a big one as well. Like, I had Beastie Boys on heavy rotation, you know, License to Ill. And, you know, I remember first getting the CD and not having it, like, I was like, what the hell? Because we used to walk around the streets with a boombox, with the tape deck, you know, and I'd have it on my shoulders, and we'd be walking in the whole crew and walking down the street to the party or whatever. But when I got the CD, I didn't have the boombox. I was like, what the hell am I going to do? So I put the CD into a laptop and put the laptop on my shoulder. Just like fucking walk around with a laptop, speakers, because the speakers were quite good on this laptop. But yeah, that definitely influenced me to get right into hip hop and really appreciate the lyrical content and the beats. And, you know, it was more, I guess it was more like, you know, the lyrical content that I was listening to, and the beats, obviously, but I wasn't in my head, I'm going to make beats. You know, I was like, I want to be a rapper. so I'm going to write raps. And that's all I did. I just like did graph and wrote raps.
And is that because that seemed to be more obtainable to a young kid because you need the production stuff at an early age? You've got a laptop on your fucking shoulder. So I'm guessing, you know, an MPC is a little bit out of the question at this stage. But was that because at that stage you thought, I can write raps and I can record this with my laptop? It's a lot easier than going down a production route?
Yeah, exactly. And it was already, I was familiar with writing too, you know, like why I sort of got into graffiti, because I excelled in English in class and stuff and storytelling and writing. So that's something that I just kept doing with my graffiti, you know. And then when it came to writing raps, I was sort of dissecting and listening to certain vocalists and being like, oh, that sounds sick. Yeah, oh, cool. Like, how do they do that? How do they do that? And, blah, 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 blah. And just trying it out, just like writing until you get like one good line, and then you get another good line, and then you get another good line, and you know?
Yeah.
But for the most part, like it was just all scribble. Like I just had to get it out of me, you know?
Right. So it was from early days, it was a creative expression from early.
Definitely. And it was easier to sort of, you know, as you said, you know, I didn't have access to programs. I didn't even know how to make a beat. You know what I mean? Like I thought that you'd need a huge studio and you need lots of equipment.
Yeah. You'd need a huge mixing board like you're seeing Dr. Dre or someone with.
Exactly.
Like, I don't know where I'm going to get
Man,
that
the only time that I ever saw people like making beats and making stuff in the studio, in live was in the studio, or I didn't even see that. You know, back then we didn't have YouTube and Google and stuff, so I was like, oh, just listening. You know, you're just hearing how they put it together, and it's like, wow, it sounds like magic. You know?
Yeah. And so then I'm guessing you got to try and get your hands on some instrumentals to put your raps to as well.
Yeah, that's the other thing. That sort of didn't come until later. We had a few instrumentals, but it was hard to sort of get our hands on them. I didn't know where to get them, and like you hear some. I think the radio show that we listened to at the time used to do like instrumentals, and then they do freestyles over it at certain points. Like they had guests in, and I think it was on
PBS.
I think so, yeah, and so just whatever instrumentals we could get our hands on, really. And then as we got older, it progressed, and my friend. His dad was an ex-DJ, so he had all the equipment at his house.
Really?
Yeah, and we'd rock up. They'd be all bloody smoking, and we'd be like, I never smoked weed back then, and I was like, I'm just going to write and let's make a tape. Come on, let's put these beats on and let's get the mic. We had these shitty mics and, you know, an average setup, but it was like he had these random comedy records that he would like play the introductions, and then we'd play the beat, and then we'd just all rap like a big posse kind of cut. And then I got into like, okay, now we need to structure it more and write like a chorus, a hook. Let's write a hook. And then we'd do a song, and then we'd do another song. And it just sort of happened as like, that was the place where we'd go hang out with all our friends, you know, go out to parties and do graffiti and stuff, but then come back and do songs. And like, I was kind of driving that and being like, come on, let's do it, you know? So I'm
guessing if his dad was an ex-DJ and they're smoking weed and stuff, they're pretty cool. So you guys have got free reign to do whatever you want.
Oh, man, super chill. Like, and then it got to a point where I was like working during the week, and then I'd go around to his house, no one would be there, just him, and we'd make songs, or I'd try to make beats, or I'd try to, you know, just craft something. You know? Yeah. Yeah.
So you could have a finished product and burn it onto a CD. Is that the dream at this stage?
That was the dream, man. Yeah, it's funny. It's like, so I could have a finished product, and so I could burn it onto a CD, and then drop it off at like Obese, you know? And we went in there so many times after we made it. Look, that's a bit further down the track when I met Ben. But yeah, when at that point it was like, making tapes and making a CD would be, that was the ultimate, you know?
It's the pinnacle. That was as high as it could go. But at this stage, I'm guessing, we're talking late 90s now, there's not a whole lot to aspire to really in an Aussie scene, is there? Like, there is some artists out there, and you'd probably find them at Obese, but there was nothing really on the radio that you could go, or on TV, you could be like, fuck, that's the pinnacle.
Yeah, that's right. It wasn't... and the stuff that we were making, like... I was hanging out with dudes that were trying to make raps and trying to make stuff that was a bit more staunch, you know, and that was the style back then. It was like, you know, Brad Strutt and Bice B and stuff, and everyone, all the crew that we were hanging out with and we were looking up to, like, you know, CR and stuff, and that they were rapping like those dudes, you know? So we were like catching up with them in parks and doing posse crew freestyling and beatboxing, and all those raps were like just more staunch, you know? So that
You wanted to
sort
make
of
more party music.
yeah, well, I was sort of down that little bit more, down that fun kind of like, I mean, it started out as that, but it didn't hold up because it wasn't me, you know? It wasn't like, that's not who I am. It's like, I wanted to have fun, and I was talking about stuff that I guess didn't relate.
More conscious?
Yeah, it started to get first off, it was conscious, because what really excelled my writing, I think, was like crews like Swallow Members and Mad Child and stuff, like rapping about like just crazy stuff. So that really excelled my writing as well, to open up and just be free to
More creative as far as the way that you could just go out on a psychedelic sort of...
Yeah, which is, full circle. I've come back to that now, kind of, man, in a way. I've always been flow-based. I've always been like, okay, well, it's got to sound good, like, rolling off the tongue. It can't sound like you're running into words or you got to stop at a weird time. It's got to flow. And the words would just put in there for the sounds that the flow would make. You know what I mean? Like
connecting the dots.
Correct. I'm not like thinking, all right, I need to write like this thing and this thing needs to join to this thing. In essence, it did. Like, it kind of, as I flowed and as I wrote, it blended in and it worked to make sense somewhat. But for the most part, it was always directed at like making sure that my flow was good.
Yeah. So at this stage, I'm guessing you're kind of inspired by like your Jurassic 5s and that sort of thing, more harmonious and more sort of flow related.
Not really at that stage, man. Like, as I said, I was kind of listening to like, Rakim.
Yep.
And Beastie Boys and Necro and Ill Bill and Onyx and heaps of artists, but that stuff, the more fun stuff and relaxed stuff like De La Soul and Jurassic 5 didn't come till later when I met Ben, really. Yeah.
Okay. So we've talked about Ben. Should we tell you, how did you meet Ben?
Yeah, well, after, that sort of period of my life, I got a job at the Classic Cinema. And I was just on ticket sales and candy bar and stuff first, but then I moved up to projectionist, and I was a projectionist for about 5 or 6 years, I think. And I met some really cool crew there. I had some really good friends, really good experiences.
For people that don't know, we'll just say the Elsternwick Classic. That's where it is, in Elsternwick, and it was kind of like a boutique cinema. It wasn't your Hoyts or anything. It was like your small cinema that would show mainstream movies, but also arty kind of stuff as well. Is that right?
That's right, man. It was run by Reading Cinemas, but it was very focused on making sure they had like art house influence. So most of the films were art house.
Yeah.
But we did get the occasional like commercial sort of blockbuster to bring in the crowds.
Yeah.
So that was me kind of working there. As time went on, Ben got a job there. I was a projectionist at the time, and I remember seeing this dude with dreads, and I was like, "Hey, man, what's up?" And we started chatting, and then I think I was in the choc top room making choc tops, scooping chocolate, and I'd be, at this point I was kind of, I wasn't fat, but I was, I was eating ice cream while I was choc topping. So we're making choc tops, and you could have music in the choc top room. So that's what kind of sparked our friendship, was having that music playing in the choc top room, like Onyx or Gangstar or whatever. And there was another guy there, Mark Fletcher, who he was the first DJ of the Psyde Projects, and we all got together. Initially, that's how we formed the Psyde Projects.
Yeah. And how'd you come up with that name? Because it's sick, I reckon.
Well, I think it was Ben and Mark. Yeah, I have to rack my brain, man.
Let's get the choc top guy in, and we've got a full crew.
Yeah. So, I think it was those guys, but a sick name. I was happy with it, and we decided to. Oh, he was already making kind of making beats.
This is Ben or Mark?
Ben.
Yep.
And Mark was the DJ, so he was focused on collecting records and mixing and trying to be like, DJ Shadow and Qbert. That were his favourites, and we'd go around to his house and we'd rap over instrumentals, and he'd get a couple of gigs and we'd be doing a couple of like raps there, and we would still do the tape recording thing, but we did it at like Ben's house in his attic. Sometimes at parties and stuff. We had it connected to like blue tack microphone. Those little microphones. I don't know if you've ever seen them. They're tiny with a little shell on it. Literally had blue tack sticking the lid and then blue tack holding them. So we was rapping through this blue tack mic and making tapes. Ben started making beats on like a program called SoundForge and Fruity Loops. Yep. And I was like, oh, cool, man, this is sick. I'm just, having to play around. And I started getting into that. Then I downloaded my own software, started doing my own thing. But we made a first CD and we did it at JMC Academy, which Chris Braun, I don't know if you know him, but he's a sound engineer, and his first project was to do an album. So we're like, yeah, sweet, we'll do it. So he said, come into the studio, do your album. I'm like, sweet. So
you've got real microphones.
Yeah.
You've got access. So that's one of those academy places where you do like a sound engineering degree or something like that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, exactly. So, and he's turned out to be a really good sound engineer working on huge acts. Like he did Ice Cube in Cypress Hill when I was there, and I didn't even know he was doing the bloody mixing, but which I was spewing about.
Because you could have got free.
Yeah, he would have taken me backstage. I would have met bloody, oh man, so stupid, but I was way too stoned. I was fucked. So yeah, look, where were we at? So I'm making beats, Ben's making beats, we're doing the album. We did
Are your inspirations changing here now that you've formed
absolutely,
a crew?
because Ben's hanging out with other dudes as well that I never met, and we started connecting and getting really close.
And for people that don't know, Ben is living here, but he's born in the US, so he's got a different mindset kind of to rapping than what most of the dudes that we're
born in the US, spent a bit of time in Belgium, and then in Sydney, and then moved to Melbourne. Mm-hmm. So look, his influences were different, and he was listening to a lot of quality, like a lot of different like hip stuff that wasn't hip hop as well. He was listening to like the Beatles and the Avalanches and whatever. He just had like a really Stevie Wonder he loved, and he'd rave about those artists, and he was listening to that stuff as well. So that influenced me to just like listen to different music as well. Mm-hmm. I was him and Mark introduced me to J5, De La Soul,
Native Tongues, that sort of thing. Yeah,
and even Tribe Called Quest, which I heard a lot back in the day, but never really got into them. Mm-hmm. And then I started down that path and started listening and sort of making my stuff to want it to sound more like that, Far Side, and
that sort of thing,
that sort of stuff.
And that's very sort of melodic and sample based kind of instrumental.
Absolutely, stuff. Yeah. So we did that album, and it's like, looking back on it, it's like when you do your first thing, it's always, after years go by, you can appreciate that you took that step and you did it, and it's awesome. Mm-hmm. But so many things that I've progressed on from, and I've learned and I've changed. And then looking back, I'm like, oh man, like wish I had done that. I wish I had done that. I wish I had.
But it's almost 20 years ago, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there you go. So
20 years.
If you haven't changed and progressed in 20 years, Jimmy, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
So
that's true.
You've got to learn.
That's
you've
true.
Got to move on.
Yeah, that's true. And so we took that CD to like, Obese, tried to get him to play it on PBS, and we'd call up and do shout outs and ask him about the CD and stuff, and just real like teenager stuff, but it was good. It's good experience, and it was really nice to spend those days with good quality friends and good memories, and create something that we can look back on and go, fuck, that was really
something
cool,
that 20 years later you can look back on and almost be proud of.
Yeah. So, continued working there for a few years at the Classic. We all sort of fizzled out and started doing our own thing. A friend of mine gave me a CD, had Arsonists, KRS-One, Dilated Peoples, Swollen Members, which Swollen Members I knew about before. Who else? There was a Rakim track. There was a...
So this is like a bootleg burnt CD?
Leaders of the New School or something. Yeah, and I was like, fucking blew my mind because that was another bunch of artists that I never heard before. Man, I had that CD on rotation. It was like the best of their best tracks, you know? So then I would just listen to each one of those albums and just start like flooding my brain with that stuff. And all I ever wanted to do was just make music and be a rapper and make tracks, make albums, do performances, get on radio.
How did the family feel about that choice of career path at that stage?
Oh, look, look, mum and dad didn't care, really. Whatever, they were cool with whatever. They just wanted me to work, you know. They just wanted me to make money, save money, or go back to school and learn something, or, you know, they're just normal parent stuff. But, yeah, they were cool with it. I met Yuka sort of coming into me having already done quite a bit of stuff. So she loves hip hop and loves like funk and disco and like that sort of sound. So that we were making. So it just she was really happy and really supportive.
Supportive of that. So I'm guessing at this part of the timeline, you've got your own equipment. You've picked up an MPC or you've got yourself a mixer. So how you're just using?
Okay, well, yeah. Ben was like, I said to Ben, like, how can we get our shit to sound like crunchy? You know, how can we get it to have that bottom end and the pump, you know? And it's like, I want that. That's what I've always been aspiring to get, you know? To have my stuff sound like. So he goes, oh man, you know, you just need to get an MPC. I'm like, what? What's an MPC? And he goes, man, like that's like People on the Stairs, and then People on the Stairs came in, and that's all I listened to. Yeah, I bought myself an MPC, got myself an MPC 2000 from a dude in Elstonwick, Spray Street. And, started making beats. Like, because I'd already had the knowledge of looping, putting snares, hi-hats and stuff together. And so I just had to apply that to a physical piece of equipment and be like, how do I do this? Yeah. And I had no idea how to do anything. So I bought that MPC King Sample Kings DVD online. I watched a couple of videos online, but there wasn't a lot. You know, this is the time when it wasn't like hectic with YouTube videos. Yeah. It was sort of like there's bits and pieces, but there's probably a lot of shit videos out there. So I ended up getting this Sample Kings DVD you'd purchase, and you watch the DVD and he goes through the whole manual, basically, like he step by step, the whole thing. Okay, this is the volume knob. This is how you record.
But you need to learn all this shit.
Absolutely, but you know, when you're on the fly and you kind of just want to make a beat, you just make it work, you know. But with the MPC, I had to go back and relearn everything, which was great. And once I did it, I was like, damn, like all of a sudden, you know, probably a month of me solidly trying to work it out and making beats, I was hitting the buttons and moving screens and stuff without even looking at the buttons. Yeah. You know, so I was like flying through it to get into a folder, open the folder, get the sample, put in the thing, chop it up, cut it, put it to the pad.
You're using analog twist knobs here.
Twist knobs.
You're not even like...
You can't... but you can't even press a button to open something. You've got to press Shift open. Shift this. And, you know, and then you click in the data wheel to jump the numbers. Yeah. And, but it's cool, man, because it's a physical thing. It's like when you're on the computer, I don't feel like... I like making beats on a computer, but to me, it doesn't feel like I'm making a beat. Yeah. It feels like I'm sitting back.
It's too digital, not analog enough.
Play. Oh yeah, cool, whatever. But if you're in the MPC, you've got to sample it. You got to get the record, put it on the turntable. You got to look for the track. You got to spin it back, find the right start. You got to hit record. Oh, you missed it. You got to stop again. You got to do it again. Hit record. Then you got to chop it up, find the loop, put it to the pad, cut it up. Put the drums, make a sequence, listen back. Sounds good, sounds shit, whatever. You know, What can I add? Find a break. It's a process of physical things that you're doing while you're creating this sound. So it's just, for me, it just feels great to make.
Authentic,
Yeah, it
more
feels
authentic.
authentic. Yeah.
And I guess it's easy with a mouse and to click and to go that digital route, but that authentic way is why people keep coming back to it, man. And it's like less is more as well, I guess. When you're limited with the amount of samples you can have on a fucking floppy disk, then you're going to really put more into it.
That's the other thing, yeah. And then I started, catching up with the like the NPC doctor, rest in peace. He was a fantastic guy, super supportive and helpful, and he helped me take my MPC game to the next level because he gave me like a external hard drive thing that I could use compact flash disc cards and load. All of a sudden I'm like, shit, I don't have this small sample time on a floppy disk. I've got this 1 gig compact flash card. It's like, oh my God, that's like a terabyte now. You know what I mean? Like the amount of sample time that you've got on a compact flash card is heaps, man. You can have like 100 beats. You know what I mean? So that was great. I'd stepped up and moved into that. And then, I'm still making beats on the compact flash cards now. So,
because with the original floppy disk, and I've never made a beat on an MPC 2000, but is the sample time like you can only loop for like 20 seconds or 30 seconds or something?
Well, the original MPC 2000 or 60 is like super small. You can't even your sample time is like it's like a hit.
Really?
It's like a small stab that you would use because to make the beat or whatever. You can have you can have a loop, but you'll be limited with other things because
it's using up all your juice.
Yeah. So a lot of people would just do the stabs and the kicks and that's why a lot of the 80s stuff sounded really like not much to it. It's like and crunchy, but you can expand the hard drive, the memory, to get a longer sample time. So the 2000 that I got and the 3000 is a longer sample time. So I can have 5 beats going at one time.
Yeah. And you're still,
not at one time, but yeah.
And so at that point in time, that's expanding everything, like you said. It's like a terabyte now. So that's opening your whole production suite now. You've got more room when you've got that. Expanded.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. Like, and then. I just went round and round with the MPC stuff because I was so jazzed by it. I was listening to people on the stairs like so much all the time. I was just on high rotation because I had so many albums as well and so many different beats and different samples and different drums and different sounds. So I was like, that's what I want to do. That's what I'm,
You're
that's
trying
what
to dissect them in your mind.
Trying to dissect them in my
exactly.
Exactly. Trying to find breaks. I spent thousands of dollars on records and buying records off John Item and going to his house and coming back with like a crate of records of samples and breaks of good shit, and then cutting it up, making beats, and when I sort of as time went on, I was using the 2000, but then I found out that all these other top producers were using the 3000. I'm like, okay, so what's the difference with the 3000, the 2000? Not a hell of a lot of difference. I mean, when you speak to the doctor, he says that, it's the sort of machine, the 3000, that you could just put on in the background and it would just be the perfect, tone, and level of sound. Whereas the 1000 would be a little bit more crunchier, less bottom end, they've all got little bit of changes of different qualities in each MPC, because they were manufactured differently. Yep. The Roger Lynn stuff, the 3000 and the 60 are pretty similar, I think. A little bit crunchy out of the 60, but the 2000 was the last of the bottom end punch that was made, because they were made for drummers originally,
And the music production.
What
was it? Music production.
But it was made to play live drums on the stage and stuff, right? So they had to have that punch and that crunch sound. Mm-hmm. And the 2000 was kind of like the last of that range of that sound that created. The XL lost a bit of quality. I think they started producing it after the 3000. They started making them in China. The 3000 and the 60 are made in Japan, all the parts and components. I think maybe some of the parts probably from China, but for the most part, it says like made in Japan on it. The rest of them like made in China.
Yeah, and that happened with a lot of things, even like the Technics turntables and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, which was unfortunate because that was, for me, that's like that sound from the MPC, and that's what I went for. That's what I wanted. And I finally got there, but that's it took me a while to understand the what producers were using at that time and why they were using it,
Yeah.
But yeah, as time went on, I went from a 2000, then I bought a 3000, then I bought a 2000 XL, then I bought a 500. I started making beats when I went on the planes and stuff, and then I bought a 1000. Then I went back to a 3000. Then I bought another 2500. The 2000 XL, and then I went back to a 3000. Now I've got a 2000, 3000, but I'm going to sell the 2000.
What a journey, Jimmy.
And I'm back to the 3000 because I've realized, and the MPC doctor did say this, man, it's the best of the best. It is the best MPC you can have. Don't ever sell this. So I was like, okay, I won't sell it. I'll keep it.
So can you expand them now to a larger memory? Can you use like an external hard drive that actually, or is that just...
Yeah. You can get like card readers and things. But look, at the end of the day, if you want to outlay the money and you want to put the money into it, yeah, you can do all that stuff. You can put a compact flash card reader and stuff. But these machines, they're old. They're a little bit temperamental. Pad switches fail on them now and again. Yeah. The screens fail on them. Like the MPC 2000 and the newer models, you can go through the waveform to chop your samples. But on a 3000, it's numbers. Yeah. You got to listen. So you got to hear the start. You got to hear the start,
and the velocity sensitivity of the pads. And there's like it's come a long way now when you could touch it a little bit.
Yeah,
and
yeah. Oh, the pads last longer too. You won't have to change anything on the 1000. The new ones, if you get a new MPC Live, probably never have to change it. But the XL, the 2000, the 2000 XL, and the 3000, the 60, you'll be finding that you'll be fixing the screen, you'll be fixing the pads, you'll be fixing stuff. Your card reader might stop working. These are sort of temperamental things, and I just figure whatever I've got working for me now, I'm just going to keep working with that.
Yep.
Not try to add more things to it because this just
like
might cause more problems.
10-year-old laptop still. It's probably older than that now.
Yeah, but someone said it to me the other day. They said the new ones are not as good as the old ones for DJing because you've got that fucking trackpad at the top, and it's like just not as
the touch bar.
Yeah, but I've heard they're not as reliable as the older ones.
If you get like anything, you get something that you want, as long as you don't update it, as long as it keeps working, then you're all good. All right, so let's go back, Jimmy, to the timeline because you did go down an interesting yet in-depth run through of all the NPCs out there. But so let's talk about in your personal journey. So you're obviously now is making beats taking a back seat to rapping. You still want to do both?
Look, I still want to do both. I love making beats.
No, but I mean in this chronological order we're going. So where we're...
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah. Look, I was heavily into making beats, but it was for raps. These beats weren't instrumentals. I wasn't going like, oh, this would be a cool instrumental thing. This would be a cool instrumental album, or maybe I could do an instrumental album. It was, I got to make beats, I got to find the one, and I got to hit Ben up, and we got to make tracks. Yeah. That was my drive.
That was your driving force, and not even thinking about making beats for other people. This is just Psyde Projects project.
Yes,
that's it.
Yep.
And so then from there, you and Ben decide to make another album. Is Mark still within the group? What's happening there?
Mark was doing university, kind of got too busy. We weren't really. We were still making tracks, and we're still writing. We're still catching up. We're still making beats. We're still trying to do stuff, but he fell off because he didn't have the time. He really wanted to continue, but he was just had different focuses in his life at that point. So me and Ben just went off and just kept like making beats and doing stuff in his attic.
Just a duo.
Just a duo, and there wasn't any plan. It was like, okay, let's make some beats, let's make some songs. We'd make beats, we'd write some hooks, we'd write some songs, we'd do some tapes, we'd check it out. No good, come back, do it again. And then all of a sudden, we met this guy. His name was, I think it was Mr. Moonshine. And he approached us, approached Ben. I don't know how they knew each other. I think it was through Elwood or something, Clayton, and like, I can't remember. But
Clayton Diaz.
Yeah. But maybe it wasn't. I could be wrong there. But I just remember Ben saying, I got this dude who's running who wants to start a night with live hip hop and DJing at a place called Loop. Mm-hmm. And he's got a dude who's doing visuals, Mikey Dubweiser. And he would do the visuals for the night, and we'd just DJ.
Which was a pretty cool concept for the time.
Oh, man, it was sick. We ran the night there for like 4 years. Mm-hmm. So he came, I met him and we sat down, we started chatting, and he said, we said we didn't have a DJ. He's like, I think he just said, I'll be a DJ for it. And we're like, cool, sweet, whatever. And then we hooked it up. We started doing it once a fortnight. Or was it once a month? I can't remember. I think it was once a month, at Loop. And we'd have a big crew. Ben was living at the clinic at that time in Paran, so there was like 20 dudes living in there. Mm-hmm. So we'd bring all the clinic dudes, we'd bring all our friends from the classic, and we had a huge crew down there. And the night was really successful. So we kept going for 4 years, and we had so many different acts come and play there. And we do the live visuals, which was sick, which is not done enough these days, to be honest. I think that should be incorporated now more with sets.
In the early 2000s, that's when I started DJing. I remember that Pioneer came out with the VDJ CDJ. And it didn't last very long. And it looked like the 1000, but it had a little screen on it. Yeah. And it was to cut audio and video together. And it just didn't last. Right. They'd be hard to fucking find them now. Yeah. But we had some at Metro, I remember.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And that was that visual thing. I think people thought this is going to be the future.
Well, this guy had he just had a Mac and Mikey and he had a program that would
cut it to the music.
He could have loops on and stuff that was pre-organized, I think, but then he had like edits on his keyboard that he could play live.
Right. Yeah.
And it was sick visuals too, like really cool stuff. And then we'd do a show in between. I'd bring the MPC and I'd play the MPC while I rapped. And Yuri would be DJing, Ben would be rapping. Ben started DJing. He played a couple of sets. I did a couple of sets. It was all vinyl. Mm-hmm. There was no... there was a couple of times where we had some DJs that needed CDJs, but for the most part, everyone brought vinyl.
And this is just before Serato, I'm guessing, too.
Yeah, this is before Serato. Yeah.
What are we talking now, like 2000, 2001?
1, 2, 3. Yeah. Before Serato.
Pre-Serato.
Pre-Serato, dude. Can you believe that?
Lugging your records around up the stairs and shit.
Oh, man. And you'd always take extra. So you're taking your 45 bag, your 12-inch bag, and a tote bag. It's like trying to carry everything up the stairs. Yeah.
So moving along then, Yuri kind of joins the group. He's unofficial for a while. He joins, and then you think about making some more music. Is that right?
Yeah. So Yuri joined, and then, it just kind of like, we just kept doing the night, and we kept doing, things together, like, events, and we did a radio show thing and at Caulfield University. It was pretty funny. like people in a cafeteria. It was the weirdest.
Even though none of you went to Caulfield Uni.
No, exactly. It's pretty funny. So he bought an MPC as well. Mm-hmm. And then he started making beats on the MPC, and we would catch up, me and him now, because Ben was getting busier with other things, and me and Yuri sort of started to drive it. He had an MPC 2000 XL, and I had the 2000. I'd bring it round, and we'd work out sets for the show. We'd sample stuff for beats. We'd make songs. I'd be like, "That's cool. Can we use it? Cool. You should use that." Blah blah blah, and that sort of happened on the regular. Like I was going around there twice a week to create stuff and get the ball rolling on on our music. So.
And he's a good guy to have jump on board because he's good at the management side of things as well. And I remember even from high school, he was running parties and doing stuff like that. He's always been involved in that back of the party scene sort of stuff.
Yeah, man, he was really good at like managing everything, and I really am appreciative and grateful for what he did in those times, because me and Ben. Like, I was motivated and I got things done, and I was, trying to create constantly, and Ben too. But me and Ben, for the most part, in terms of like managing an organisation, we were pretty backseat for that stuff. We were just focusing on the raps and the performance and the recordings, which is what we were in it for to what we were doing. We wanted to be musicians. We didn't want to be publicists. We didn't want to be organisers and managers.
That managerial person to jump in.
Correct. Yeah. And it was great that he ended up getting some massive gigs. Like, we've done hundreds of shows now, and we've done tours around Australia. He organised. He was connected with people at venues. He got us gigs like supporting De La Soul, supporting Public Enemy, supporting, Pete Rock and Grandmaster Flash. And they were huge for us.
Big time.
Massive, man. Yeah. Like, we got to play at the ESPY, like heaps.
And that was when the ESPY was good.
That was our yeah, exactly. That was our home.
Yeah.
The green room, man. I spent so much time in that green room smoking joints. It was great. It was so good.
Melbourne bitter.
And he was closely connected to Low Budget. Mm-hmm. Low Budget, man, that was sick. That was so good, man. Yeah. Him and
Debonair P
and Gino, man, they were friggin' magicians, wizards. Yeah. We met them at first floor. Yep. And we were doing a show with them, and that was the first time I met them. I was like, fuck, these guys are so good. And then we just started doing more shows together. Yeah. We did headliners with in the Gershon Room and the Front Bar, and we supported, like, I think we did like 3 or 4 supports together for Low Budget, Psyde Projects, and like Newmark, or
Newmark from J5.
Yeah.
Yeah, sick. Which that's cool to just play with him in general.
Man, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. That was in the Gershon Room where he did his toy set. He had all these little gadgets and things.
The Fisher Price toy and the monkey hitting the drums.
Yeah. Oh, man, his show's sick. He's amazing. And he hooked us up with all those gigs, and it was just awesome. Like, at that time, we were all busy. We were all doing our own thing as well, I was... I got a close friend of mine who's a personal trainer, and he's a male stripper, and he goes to me, Barry, do you want to MC the show? Or do you want to DJ the show? We need a DJ for the show. We're starting a male strip show, male review. I said, okay, well, yeah, sure. I'm a DJ. And
he said, have you got a Speedo? Can you come down in there?
And he goes, yeah, well, that's what I thought initially. No, look, my brother did a bit of male review, bit of dancing, and at Crown Casino, and that's how he met Murray. And then Murray goes to me, do you want to DJ for the show? So I said, yeah, I'll DJ. And he's like, oh, do you want to MC as well? But sure, because he knows that I'm a rapper, and I'm familiar with the microphone. So I did the show for them at I think it was the Loft or something in the city, and we did that every weekend. And that was a good money earner for me, That was my cash.
From a performer to get any paid gig so you can do the other stuff, because I'm guessing it's great supporting fucking Newmark, but it's not going to be paying the bills.
Well, all the money that we got from doing those gigs, those performances, went into a kitty. We made a decision that, like, we wouldn't pay ourselves.
Put the band first.
Correct. So all that money we could use to pressing vinyl, doing other shows, going on tour. Like, we had a kitty. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, and I'm glad we did that.
Yeah.
Because having that money, that little bit of extra support to do those things really helped a lot. But so I needed to earn a little bit of money on the side as well. I had a day job, but I needed to earn that cash on the weekends. So I did that. I did that Mal Review, that strip show. And having, weekend gigs with the Psyde Projects, Yuri one night, he goes to me, oh, mate, we're doing Public Enemy.
Is this at the SP?
At the SP.
Yeah.
We're at the Star Bar. They changed venues like 3 or 4 times. Yeah. I'm at the Star Bar. Like, ladies, are you ready to see some malnudity? You know, and we supported Public Enemy, but my mate's like, dude, what are you doing to me? We've got an opening night for an 80s night tonight. You can't leave me flat like this. I said, here, just take these mix CDs. Don't play that one. And then just play all those ones. You'll be fine, man. Just put a mix on. He goes, all right. So I went. Anyway, the night fucked up. He ended up putting the one that I said don't play, which was like, had a 19-minute mix of One Night in Bangkok and the World's Your Oyster for 16 minutes or something. And he didn't know how to change it. And everyone's like going, boo. And he's like... And then the last song after that, because it was like 2 songs in this mix, and it was like, please don't go. And everyone's walking out the door. Don't go. Please don't go.
So you hung him out to dry.
Oh, fuck, I feel so bad. But that was a separate night from the strip show. I was able to come back and still do those. But on that night, it made me think, oh shit, we should do something special, you know? Do an introduction or something funny for the introduction to us coming on stage.
That'll really impress Flavor Flav and Chuck D.
Yeah. So I got out there and I was like, okay, guys, just, you know, you sit behind the decks. Ben, you get behind the curtains. I'll stand behind the curtains. We'll get the microphones. And I'll be like, good evening, ladies, and welcome to an evening of explosive entertainment. I've got a question. Do you like your men big? Well, how big? 6? 8 inches? Well, this man's all but 6'4", weighing in at a hefty 80 kilos of pure, ripped, hardcore rhyming muscle and a smile that'll keep you begging for more. Ladies, I present to you, D-Fro. And then he'd come out like that, you know. And then I'd be like, now, for a man who needs no introduction. Why? Because he lets his performance do all the talking. With years of international experience behind the decks, if you got an itch, this man will scratch it. He reigns from the back streets of Caulfield. With a little bit of European spice, I present to you Mr. Moonshine. Ladies, this next act I'm most excited about. Because he's a man of mystery. A man of uniform. Do you like your men in uniform? Well, what about out of uniform? And then I'd come out and we'd do the show. And we did.
And how did the Public Enemy crowd relate to that?
Man, it was pretty funny. They're like, yeah, people loved it. They thought it was funny as. Yeah.
It could go either way.
Yeah, and it worked well. And then we did the show, smashed it, you know, and there was people like that night. And I did that on like a lot of nights too, you know. Sometimes we came out and they were like, what the fuck's going on here? And other times they were like, oh, that's so funny. Yeah, that's awesome. And then at the end of the Public Enemy one, Chuck D comes up to me. He's like, good show, boys, and gave me a fist bump. And he's like, well done, man. And I remember punching his fist, and it was like punching a fist this big. I was like, thanks, man.
What a moment, though.
Yeah. And then went backstage trying to meet Flavor Flav, and he was putting his pants on, so it was a bit awkward. I was like, hey, Flavor, what's up, man? And he's put his pants up. It was a bit strange, bit of an awkward moment. So I just left him. I just walked backwards casually. So,
what a moment, though, man.
Oh, man, it was great. It's great. Got to meet all my idols, man.
Yeah, so, all right. Well, while we're talking about the support stuff, why don't you tell us about... All right, so you've told us about Public Enemy. Who else did you get to support and meet that is more sort of bucket list kind of stuff?
Man, Amani from, Farside, Newmark, Grandmaster Flash, De La Soul... You know, all those guys.
Flash is huge, man.
Huge. Grandmaster Flash, but it was a bit weird. He wasn't very talkative or very he's very private and kind of just came in the back door and then. But it was a real blessing to be able to have supported these artists, it was just. I remember I wrote in one of the posts that I did for the latest release for the Psyde Projects about some of the history of me and Ben and the performances we did. And I remember sitting on stage, man, I was pretty stoned. Because at the SP, you could smoke joints on the stage and no one, it was sweet. We're smashing beers. We had a rider, smashing beers, handing out beers, smoking joints, passing the joint. And this one night, De La Soul night, I'll just go back a bit, I said, whoever, we had the smoking song, I said, whoever can come up on stage and light this joint can take the first puff. So this dude fucking jumped up in 2 seconds. I was like, shit, that was quick, man. He had a lighter, gave him the joint, lit the joint. He was like, blew it into the crowd, and everyone's like, yeah. And then we took a few puffs and passed it to the crowd, and then the rest of the crowd. But he ended up getting thrown out. And I think we don't know if it was our fault. Maybe it was because of the lighting of the joint. But I felt really bad on that night because we were smoking the joint. But that was cool with the SB. Everyone did anything on stage.
Yeah, you're talking 15 years ago. That was acceptable. Somewhere.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It wasn't the worst thing that was going on.
No, of course not. But then, I remember being super blazed and being on the stairs of the SB, where the security guard was to get up to the green rooms. Mm-hmm. We would be standing on the stage watching the show because I didn't want to be. It was packed, right? And I remember standing on the stairs watching De La Soul, and I think, it was like halfway through, and I was just like, fuck, watching the people react to the De La Soul music and us knowing that we just supported them and played our music for the crowd. I thought to myself, if I don't make it, man, in music, or I don't, become famous and I don't become a millionaire or whatever, it's all good. I don't care. Like this is the most priceless moment, one of the most priceless moments that you could ever have in your life. And that's coming to the realization of a goal that you have sort of succeeded in and have tried to do something your whole life and then get to a point where you're satisfied by the result. Mm-hmm. And that's what I felt on the stairs watching De La Soul. I thought, we're here, we're performing for the artists that we love, right? That we aspired to be. Mm-hmm. We made music and our sound to make it sound like these guys. Mm-hmm. Now we are supporting these guys and we're playing music to their fans who like their music and they liked our performance.
Yeah. It's like validation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a trip, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I was stoned, so I was deep. I was going deep in thought, but I was like, wow. Plus I was full of endorphins after the bloody show. I was dripping with sweat with the towel and, I was just like, whoa, this is fucking, what a moment.
Yeah.
And I was like, even if I don't get money and I don't get fame, this is huge.
Yeah, the rest is all cream on top because you've done what you wanted, what you set out to achieve.
Yeah, exactly, and that happened, a few times because we got to support some big acts, and that was all thanks to Yuri with the push and knowing people and getting us in the door and our product as well. Totally. Us putting the work in. We put work in, man. I would be up until 3 a.m. making beats most nights. Mm-hmm. Writing rhymes all the time.
But it came across pretty authentic in that capacity, I think, because a lot of other people that were probably making music at that time were just writing raps or just making beats. When you guys were totally in-house, you were doing it all in-house.
Yeah.
You didn't really have at that stage, I don't think, any external producers making anything for you.
No.
Just engineering, I guess.
Yeah, engineering. We were lucky to have engineering help from Mr. Danielson, who helped us, with mixing it, and being where I'm at now and looking back at the way that I mixed it and the way we did it, we spent so long trying to get a sound that was already there. Just recently, I've started mixing my own stuff and it sounds so much better to me. Well, like in what I want and with ease of just doing it, because what I wanted was to just put the beat out from the MPC and put raps over it, like obviously mix it and make it sound good and record it in a good environment through a good mic and through a good preamp and then get it mastered. But essentially we were putting out every separate channel and then mixing it.
Yeah.
So we were trying to mix it to sound like the sound that it was going to come when it came straight out the MPC as a wave. It's one wave.
Yeah,
form.
So you could, in hindsight, you could have put it out and let the people that know what they're doing master it, but you're trying to master it one fucking track at it. Yeah.
To get a clear, good sound, you do need every channel, to be able to EQ it properly. But for what we were doing, we wanted the crunch. We wanted that authentic sound. Yeah. And we just needed to just get it straight out the MPC, but we didn't. Doesn't matter.
But
So I like that. It's learning. It's learning. It's all learning. It's all the process, man. You know.
Technology's changed now as well, so you can achieve these things in an easier fashion if you choose to.
How do you mean? Oh, yeah. Look, yeah, absolutely. Like you can mix your stuff in the softwares and the hardwares that you have now more refined, but you still. There's something about the old MPCs where it's just like make the beat, roughly mix it, bounce it out, mix the vocals to the track, master it. Mm-hmm. There's something about that quality of sound that you get from that result.
And probably knowing that most of the artists that you look up to have done it in that way as well makes it a little bit more authentic.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, even you hear some of like RZA's beats. It's like, man, those beats sound terrible. Some of the mixing sounds terrible.
Terrible
but they're sick. In an awesome way. Yeah. Like mixed wise, I mean, you know?
Yeah. But that's
the flavour.
But that's a whole craft in itself. Like, you know, you think about people, there's dudes now that, well, it's always sort of been happening, but it's kind of popularized now with dudes that make hip hop beats without any drums, which is an unusual thing to do. But, you know, like the Alchemist is doing that sort of thing. Yeah. And then they're letting the rappers kind of fill those voids.
Yeah. Look, it can be done as well with the right sample. You know, I think that I listened to that track this morning. Just it shuffled onto my Spotify, but the Kanye West beat with the Jay-Z, drop it, yeah, and you don't need much for that because it's got the vocal part and it sounds like he's kind of beatboxing with his voice. Yeah. So you kind of get the hi-hat and the snare kind of in the voice characteristics, and if you put too much, it's going to be too messy. Yeah. Too dirty. So. Yeah, sometimes that stuff can really work. Like Doom does that, you know, a lot. Like just a sample and like a kick or a kick and a snare without a hi-hat or whatever.
Yeah. There is, and you let the vocals fill those voids, and they become the instrument in themselves.
Like he's so good. I love his stuff, but that kind of style of making beats is so rough. It's so quick. It's so it's so raw.
But his flows just spewed out. Like non-stop, and he'd just keep going and going.
It's hypnotic.
Yeah. But I think what needs to happen for a lot of these sort of kids now to find out about someone is they have to die because they're not digging it. Well, it sounds bad. Do you know what I mean? Once someone dies, everyone goes and digs through their music, and then all of a sudden they're trending on Spotify.
Depends. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like. Again, man, like I didn't find artists through Spotify. I didn't find artists through YouTube. I didn't find artists through Instagram.
We're old, Jimmy.
I know, but I'm just saying, like there was at different times of life in society. There's different ways of being exposed to things, and you can either be hand-fed those things, or you can try to find those things through motivation and through drive and through just wanting to sound like a certain thing. I know people still do that. Like if a song's going to come on Spotify, look, technology and having Spotify and having a song to just be able to just be there without you having to pay for it or someone to show you, it shuffles into the radio station the songs that you like. You're like, oh, I like that artist. Yeah. I'll follow that artist. So that's a great thing. Absolutely. Amazing.
But I tell you what does suck though is like, there's plenty of songs that aren't on Spotify and will never be on Spotify. And for, someone like yourself that's dig records and that sort of thing, a lot of sample-based stuff will never be on there. You know what I mean? A lot of jacked beats will never be on there because they'll never get the clearance. And unless you own that physical copy, you'll never get it.
I don't know, man. Like, I feel like, look, some I don't know what the rules are now these days because of the whole AI thing and because of how many people are producing and releasing stuff. I don't know how they manage it.
All right, so we had a nice little rant there, which often happens, which is the makings of a good chat. Yep. But let's get back on track and talk about the Psyde Projects again. Cool. You were indeed supporting a lot of big international acts and stuff, which is awesome. But I guess you want to get your own music out there, and I feel like in Australian music, especially around that time, Triple J was a necessary evil. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. We were trying so hard for so long to get our music to played on radio. You know, we did radio shows when we did releases, and when we had parties, we'd go on Triple R with Chris, and you know, PBS with The Breakdown with Manchild, and you know, try and release our music in the airwaves and have it played regularly on radio. There was Unearthed was a big thing back then.
Still is
and
now.
Still
I
is.
think,
Yeah,
maybe not as much.
Maybe not as much because of the ease of being able to just like release your stuff and have it. If you're good on the socials, you can get your stuff heard. But radio was the thing. Radio was the place. Triple J was the place to be, and Triple R, PBS. But we put our stuff on. We put a couple of songs on the Unearthed page, and KPM got sort of played on rotation a bit. Like we were getting royalties from that, which was really cool.
That's awesome. To put something on Unearthed and then to get some royalties from it is big, man.
Man, like when we put it out, we didn't expect it to be radio friendly, like that sort of song. It's like it's a stage song, you know. It's like at the shows those songs would go off but yeah, like he played it. I think the Doctor picked it up and started playing it lots through like prime time, 5 o'clock. I'd be on, like someone would message me like, dude, you're on the radio. Like, sick. Listen to it. Then I'd be just constantly getting messages, dude, you're on Triple J. Sick. What the hell's going on? So, and then even sometimes I'll be listening to Triple J just to see if it was going to get played, and it got played. And I'm like, damn, this is sick.
Yeah.
So getting royalties from that was really cool.
Yep.
To get a paycheck, and it's like, where's all this stuff come from? It's like, well, it's all the shows that we're doing because we're inputting all the songs at APRA and AMCOS to, you know, to play that stuff live. But when we did the radio stuff, that was when we noticed it. We were like, shit, this is pretty good. Monthly paycheck for a few months. It's pretty cool.
And then you think, all right, so this is the way forward. We've cracked this market there with KPM, and then I guess you try and throw like it doesn't necessarily guarantee that that's going to be any longevity in them playing your music, is there?
No, like, and I sort of felt that as well. Although when we did a few shows at the ESPY, we actually had some crowd. Like I remember seeing like maybe 3 times. I think one of them was like at the Newmark show, and one was like at the Grandmaster Flash show, and then another was probably Public Enemy or De La Soul. And there was people singing along to the chorus. And we were like, shit, like there's a couple of girls in the crowd, or dudes or whatever, just a few, but I can read their lips. They're singing along to our chorus. That's cool, man. That's awesome. How then? Oh, Triple J, they know the song because of Triple J. So that was cool, and I think that helped us get a few more gigs as well, being on Triple J. Yeah, but that was a really cool thing to have people sing along to your tracks while you're doing the show. It's really awesome.
Man. That's when you look over at Ben and go, we've come a long way from the chalk top room, man.
Oh, man. Yeah.
So let's talk about some other stuff that you've done within the music space that wasn't necessarily side projects. Here in Melbourne, we've got one of the coolest bars, I think, in the country, Section 8, and they have the battles that used to happen
Section
with
8
different crews and stuff. And you were a part of that with Groove Penguin Records, the GPR gang. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that, man?
So are you.
It was somewhat involved in a small capacity.
No. That was great. Me and Ben, he was living with me at the time. So he said, all right, let's catch up, 2 days a week or something, and work out a set where I'd use the MPC, and he could use one deck with instant doubles of Serato, and I'd be playing like some beats, and we could rap and DJ and throw down a bit of a show, because that's what it was. We were thinking, okay, well, this is a DJ battle, but we want to incorporate some instruments or some vocal stuff and some live beat stuff, just to make it more entertaining and more fun. Yep. And we had that show experience already, so we just incorporated that into the sets. But yeah, it was good. That was a great experience as well. I mean, it fucked me. I got laryngitis. I lost my voice after the third battle. third battle, from screaming and just smoking. I remember I had a fucking, the military belt with the bullets. I put joints in them because we were like I was giving out joints to everyone because I asked the B-boys to come down, the Japanese B-boys and B-girls, and they all came down. And I was just giving out so many joints. Mitch and Glenn were behind us painting.
Live artists, all sorts of shit.
We had Todd the pirate going crazy and bloody Benny. And, oh, man, it was when they rocked up in tracksuits, I was in awe. These guys are so good. And the support that we had, man, I can't thank those guys enough that they made that party. And, it
wasn't just one, it was many. It was three.
Many. It was many people that made that party and that came along, and it was just fun, and just laughing the whole time. Like, it wasn't stressful. It was stressful at some points. Yeah. But the last one was stressful because we tried to incorporate too many things, and the sound for the venue couldn't handle it. So that what we were trying to do, it fit a square peg into a round hole. It wasn't working. We needed to just go simple. We should have gone CDJs. Maybe one CDJ, one vinyl, like what Yuri was doing. When Yuri did that set, I think he did the first one with a 45 and a USB. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Pulling the 45s, one 45, one USB, but it was so good. Yeah. That was such a good set, Yuri's set. And I was like, damn, we should have just done the whole battle, but just simplified it.
Yeah.
2 mics, decks, done. And then we could have just smashed it,
There was a lot of bells and whistles when you thought about it. There was live art. We even had Tom Showtime playing.
Oh, the sax in the penguins. And I used that penguin suit for first floor when we first started doing shows. And man, it's so hot in there. I was dripping with sweat. I was just, so gross. And then Tom in there with the sax, and I had my mate, he brought a keyboard, but I don't think he used it because we just couldn't hear it. And then we had that engineer helping us, but there was too many instruments.
Too many things happening. But
too many things.
For people that understand Tattersalls Lanes and where Section 8 is, it was the capacity just wasn't really there. There was a line from about 11 o'clock in the morning. People couldn't get in. Yeah. But the atmosphere was so sick that people outside just were part of the party.
Exactly. Yeah. That was like, man. I remember I think it was the first one or the second one where I was up on the top podium behind the decks rapping, and I remember looking down and I was like, fuck, there's a lot of people here. Like, there was the whole venue was completely full. It was a capacity. Everyone was on the stands. It was like a sea of people. And then outside, the laneway was just all the way down to the dumpling shop, and it was they were jamming. They were dancing and having a good time. Yeah, it was sick.
Yeah, man. I think that's one thing that Melbourne's definitely got that a lot of other cities don't. They've got some cool bars, but Section 8, they managed to nail it, and they have been for the last 15 years.
So good. It's so unique. It's the outdoor vibe that what gets people. They can smoke. They can just. It feels more free. Plus, it's well designed. It looks cool. And
and
it feels like you're at a bloody like a back alley party, like a block party.
Yeah, which essentially you are.
Yeah.
Besides that, which is definitely a highlight for me to be a part of that. But what other gigs and besides supports, but times that you've maybe run nights or done other kind of cool gigs as well? What are highlights for you, man?
Oh, look, that's a hard one because those times were massive highlights for me doing those shows at the ESPY. That was sick. Doing some tours around Australia and, getting the chance to go and see different towns and different venues and doing weird shows and having weird situations where we had nowhere to sleep and we were sleeping on people's floor with a towel as a pillow. And yeah, it was, but the highlights for me for doing shows would definitely be in that period. I mean, I focused a lot more on DJing these days to earn the money, and there's been some great gigs. But Lucky Cock was a good place too. We spent a lot of time there. We ran a wax on, wax off night there. It was just vinyl only for like 7 years. And we did a lot of live shows there, like upstairs when I did the hip hop upstairs and downstairs as well. Yeah. Used it for film clips.
All sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah.
And
Revolver as well.
Yeah.
But we went to we played this show in the front room on the stage. It was quite full. We were supporting an artist and a Triple J artist
who remains nameless.
Tongue.
Okay.
The Tongue
from Sydney.
Yeah, and it was a couple of other dudes that we supported on different nights, but that one in particular, I remember I was just like, "Fuck this! I'm gonna light up a joint like the DSP," Got up on stage and we did the show. We're halfway through the show, and then the weed song comes on. Like, all right, this song is dedicated to, and then I lit the joint and took a massive drag, and then the two security guards come up and said, "Put that out. Put that out, you got to get off the stage." I'm like, no, it's all part of the show, don't worry, it's okay. He's like, put it out. I'm like, mate, it's okay, it's part of the show. It's like, put it out or you're out of here in front of everyone. I was like, oh, you bloody buzzkill, and threw it out.
They don't have much of a tolerance for any kind of drugs at Revolver, man. You can't get away with anything there.
I thought it was at the ESP.
Yeah.
No, it was, I kind of, we incorporated that into the show. We actually got away with it at Lounge a couple of times, and and at Laundry.
Yeah,
and a few other venues, but yeah, it was frowned upon.
You potentially got away with it at Lounge because Yuri was the head honcho at the time.
Oh yeah, I don't think he was when we were doing the show. Yeah,
not during that period.
Nah.
So we briefly touched on Groove Penguin, GPR,
Yeah.
Groove Penguin Records. That's your record label.
Yes.
So it must be cool to put out stuff on your own label, but it also must be cool with dudes like Showtime and other people that you've had that you can put out their music as well on your label. I'm not saying it's necessarily the best business venture, but it must be cool to be able to do that.
Yeah, it is cool. And it all started with the Psyde Projects. As I was saying before, we put the money into the kitty and we used it for pressing vinyl, and then Yuri was like, why don't we expand this? We created Group Penguin through, being together with the Psyde Projects. And I think once we created that, it opened up doors to like manufacturing and releasing other artists. And we had other artists coming and saying, look, well, I can't afford to press it. I can't afford to release it right now. Can you help me? Or, I don't know how to release it. Can you help me? So we had that experience and that knowledge that we could then get behind them and manufacture it for them.
And you put out some sick songs, man. Some great and some projects that weren't, some instrumental projects.
Yeah, Scomes and
Scomes,
is a legend, absolute legend, and his beats are phenomenal, and his releases were good. Tom Showtime,
His edits were amazing.
Yeah, Lone Wolf, and we did solo stuff as well. Like between me and Ben, I think we've got nearly 100 songs together, like between the two of us. Which is really cool.
Yep.
But the label thing, I think we've got about 20 releases now under our belt. But yeah, it's been a hard slog. It's not easy, and it's not easy. It's also not easy to, like, you've got to be working constantly to try and promote, do the manufacturing, do the mixing, do the recording, do the liaising, do everything with the artist and with all the businesses that you're releasing the vinyl with, and radio shows and promotions and shows, and the list goes on. And we're not getting money for doing that. We're just doing that because we want our label to be helping independent artists in Melbourne that needed the support.
Yeah, and that's what I think 99% of the Melbourne music independent industry is. There's not much money in it, and it's just getting the support. But it's cool when people can go into shops like Union Heights or whatever, and they can pick up a copy of your record.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and that's. I mean, we always wanted to have it on vinyl. That was like the goal. After there was the tape first, and then it went to CD, and then we're like, we need to have this on vinyl. And then after we got the taste for vinyl and people were buying vinyl, we were like, well, let's just keep doing it. So we keep pressing vinyl. And then that's why I guess people were approaching us as well to get their release done because they wanted to have it on vinyl. And, vinyl is something that you can hold, something that is not going to, it's not going to just be depreciated, It's a really good medium to have.
Yeah.
And
it's a physical thing that you can sort of say, even if, like you said earlier, that's something you can have, and that's like a moment you can be like, man, if nothing else happens, this is a fucking piece of art I put.
That's right. Yeah, that's the other thing. Like it's definitely a. I think people feel like when you press vinyl, it's just like, oh, you've done a vinyl. Oh, that's big time. It's an expensive thing to do. Mm-hmm. Plus, it's not an easy thing to do, not the easiest thing to do. But when you do it, people have more respect for you within the industry, and for people that are just buying your stuff and looking at your stuff, it's like, oh, these guys are legit. They got vinyl, you know. Yeah. But we wouldn't be putting stuff on vinyl that wasn't ready for vinyl. Like we put a lot of work into making sure that it was ready. Yeah.
And with the for someone who's never pressed a vinyl, so if you're releasing something, is it significantly different in the cost of doing a 12-inch from like a 45?
Oh yeah, because there's printing stuff as well that's costly.
The sleeves and everything.
The sleeves, like then there's the shrink wrap, then there's all the disco sleeves, or the coloured vinyl, or the different coloured labels, or everything. Go for the works, or go internationally and get it done cheaper, but then pay $900 or $1,000 for shipping, and then but it can be a costly thing for a 12-inch because they're large. 45s, you've only got the 2 tracks, but they're easy to carry with you to sort of to give them out at shows and stuff, and easier to manufacture, cheaper to manufacture. Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about the music stuff that you've done, but also there's another creative side to you, man. You like to get behind the camera. Do you want to tell us do you want to tell us a little bit about some of your cinema sort of pursuits? Yeah. Well,
I went to school for sound engineering, and I lasted probably a year. And then started getting into, I did some recordings, did some mixing, and then started getting into the electronic side of it, like making microphones and shit. And I was like, oh, fuck, this is getting too hectic. And then the detail for engineering was just too much for me, and it was getting away from the creative thing. Like I couldn't combine the two. So I changed courses and I did film production. And film production I've always been fond of because I was a projectionist, and I love films, and I was always writing stories and ideas and thinking up shot lists and creative ways to film things.
And film clips for the band.
Film clips for the band, yeah, I always did that. Well, that came while I was doing the film production stuff at the school, which was around the same time as when we were doing like major supports with the Psyde Projects and stuff. So it worked well because I could get all the equipment, and I could use dudes from the school to come and help, and we'd work together in creating ideas. And
how good school equipment? It's amazing.
Oh man, school equipment's fantastic. Just love the school equipment.
Just you want to go down the route of making more documentary style stuff, or more cinematic stuff?
Look, at the end of the day, I would like to produce my own stuff and create my own things from the ground up. But I've made probably about 10 or 15 short films. I've done probably 15 film clips for different artists and for our stuff, the Psyde Projects and solo stuff. But it's a lot of work. It takes, it can take 6 months to a year, if not longer, to finish something. And if the money's not coming in, I can't be giving that time to those things, So it has been difficult to try and get projects off the ground as of late, but I've got a few things that I'm working on at the moment, and hopefully I can get some support and put them out in conjunction with someone else producing it and someone else helping.
So essentially the way to do it, I'm guessing, in this day and age, is to get something that's somewhat of a pilot, put it out there, and there are other avenues. You can go through the GoFundMe page, or
exactly.
or that route, or you could put it to a bigger production company and say, "Hey, do you want to financially back this?" Is that the way it sort of goes?
Yeah, it's tricky. I don't know. There's kind of a few different ways. I mean, you can do it all yourself, and you can get the GoFundMe thing, but I find that I don't want to be. I mean, I've been selling stuff for a long time. It's not like I'm just selling stuff to people that I don't believe in. I'm believing in the product and what I produce, and but I feel like I've done that for the last 20 years with my music. So it's hard for me to get on a GoFundMe and go, hey, how about this now? It's like I want to do that, but I feel like it would still be a very difficult slog to try and actually get it off the ground and put it in a place where it's going to be seen and promoted well. I can do that, definitely. You can do that in this day and age, but to have a support, like a platform that I can work with to create that content will work better for what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. That's
I think, yeah.
Very diplomatic response.
Well, I try not to,
You're trying not to say the wrong thing and piss off any potential powers that be.
Exactly. So that's my route now. I'm driven. I'm focused this year, and I want to get a lot of content out and get some stuff happening. But it's just about working out how to put together proposals and get a little bit of a teaser happening for those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to tickle people into potentially saying, hey, this is something we want to get behind.
Yeah, exactly. Those things that hopefully it will tickle them. I think the
You'll tickle them.
I think I'll tickle them. I think I will with this one. With this one that I'm working on. I have been working on for the last 15 years, mind you. I've been like recording interview. I'm doing a documentary at the moment, and I've been filming and recording and writing and coming up with ideas and changing. It's changed 15 times, but I've been working so hard, and now I'm at the point where I'm like, I've got all this skill, I've got all this knowledge, and now I've got the good idea. Now I just need to put together a proposal and see if I can work with a company to get it made properly.
Well, I'm sure you can do it, man. You've got the right idea, and I am aware of what you're doing, even though we can't really talk about it. But I think it's fucking awesome, and I'd love to see it as a documentary buff. I reckon it'd be fucking awesome.
Even as a series,
yeah.
There's so much in that story that I want to document and I want to explain and tell, but it could be bigger than that because there's just so much in a documentary because it's got so much detail for the characters.
Yeah, for sure.
And they're all characters, man. Let me tell you, they're funny. Oh, God, I better not go into it.
Don't spoil it.
I won't go into it. On the next one, I will because I'll be further down the track with the production and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. All right, so let's go back to the music and let's talk about your most recent endeavors. Your most recent project is a instrumental project. How did that come about, man?
Well, I sort of did an instrumental release years ago, and it was called Sweater de Fuzzer, and it's a instrumental beat tape that was made from like library records, and basically I would froth at these records, man. Johnny Item would show me a couple of these records that were made for radio stations and background music of TV ads and jingles and things. And these records, they're not cheap either, man. Like they're hard to come by. They're rare.
And they're kind of royalty free as well.
In a sense, sort of. They're kind of royalty free, sort of. Like, yeah, it's a hard one. I don't know about that, but if you chop up certain things a certain way, you can make something different enough so it's not recognizable to the original song, but it's still paying homage to that song.
Yeah, but they're essentially like a sample bank from a day gone, kind of.
Correct, and these
like sound effects and shit like that.
And man, these composers are brilliant. Like these dudes are studio dudes. Like they're just in the studio making songs for jingles, for radio, for advertising, and they're just insane, like how good they are.
Yep.
You know, some of the songs, some of these records just blow me away every time, man. And you know, I think the most I paid was like $300 for a library record, just one record, because super rare and just blew me away.
You're talking just one single record, like side A, side B, 112-inch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a lot of money for one.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like there's ones for 1,000 stuff, you know, out there. But as a collector at the time, I remember going into Northside and they had like all these, I bought a bunch off Johnny too, but I went into Northside once and they had all these crates behind the counter and I was like, digging through stuff. I'm like, what's all that? Oh, libraries. Oh, cool. Can I look? Yeah, sure. Walked around and ended up taking like, over time, I took like most of them. I bought most of them. I bought like there was about 7 or 8 crates there, and I remember coming back every like week or couple of weeks and getting like a crate at a time, you know, of records. Yeah.
Explain to the people that aren't crate diggers what is so special about the library record. It's just because it's going to be so rare that other people probably haven't sampled it already?
Correct, yeah. So rare that other people haven't sampled it already. It is made by brilliant composers that if you look them up and you check out their other, you know, work that they've done, they've worked on other albums and you know, their own solo stuff, but just mind-blowing composers, like brilliant producers and engineers working on these records. And they need it to be, I guess, because it's for radio and it's for advertising, you know? It's like the cream of the crop. They probably had the studios would have been insane.
Yeah.
And the musicians were too. So I feel like it's a forgotten piece that is like I want to bring back in through the music that I love making, and I want to incorporate that into my sound. I love the sound for a start. It's just like, I love it. Certain time frame, certain label, certain composer, you know, that I hear. I'm like, oh, yeah, I love that. You know, I'll put that with what I like to make, the beats that I like to make. But I feel like that sort of music is going to be lost. It's going to be gone because there is so many people that had radio stations or had big production companies that have all these records for this purpose and they throw them in the bin. They just, those records are sitting in the basement. Just throw them out, those old things. You know, but it's like, oh my God, it's gold. It's fucking gold because it's not like a thriller or it's not like a song that has been played like all the time. It's never going to be forgotten. You know, a song that has just been smashed on radio. It's hidden. It's a hidden gem. It's like a little nugget. You just listen to it. You're like, oh my God, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
How good this sounds. Yeah.
And you can breathe new life into that by pulling it out and
putting
it back together in
a sense. I feel like that, you know, even though, you know, I'm no DJ Premier or anything, but like I feel like when I make beats and when I craft those songs, it brings me to that feeling and that theme that it was brought about on the record, you know. It brings me back to that, and producing something in a theme, like, I don't know. It's just I feel like when we did the Psyde Project stuff, they were just like, we did tracks. We did albums, but we did just tracks. You know, we did a track, we did a hook, we did a verse, we did, you know. But with these sort of instrumental things, they're nice to, unless it's just a beat tape for raps or like here's a beat tape, here's some beats that I did. It's nice to have a theme and like, you know, an ending and an intro and an outro and like a skit and something that comes from that era and that time and it puts you into that moment, you know, but in a hip hop way. Yeah, in a way, you know.
It's cool though because I think
Jack and the samples.
when you're limited, and it's like we were talking about before when we were off camera, and I was showing you some of the awesome stuff that people have given me since doing this podcast, and I showed you what Morgan Campbell had given me, and he's set himself such a specific brief to do his collage art from. It had to be from this era, and it's sort of similar to that. You're like, if you pick this niche and you can just sample from that, you're limited, but in a way it kind of makes it cooler.
Yeah, and also, you know, they've got this, like a lot of the library records and stuff, they've got the same a very similar sound because it was the jingles and, you know, background music or whatever, or theme music. But there's so many different composers. Like one's predominantly using guitars, or one's heavy on the drums, one's heavy on the bass, one's heavy on the organ or whatever. So they're all got different like vibes, but if you bring it together, they do have all very similar qualities, you know?
Yeah.
And that's for that project, Sweater de Fuzzer, I wanted to do that sort of like bring that sound and that vibe into hip hop beats, you know, just make it, like a theme music.
Theme music.
You know?
I like it. But even though it is
You rap
instrumental and it's, but you can rap on it.
You can.
Yeah?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you can. Of course you can.
Do you want to rap on it?
Why not? There's a couple of beats that on this release that I made for raps, and that I was like, oh, okay, I'll just add that to this mixtape because this is going to work well with that. But yeah, let's do it, man. Head in the clouds.
All right, let's do it. All right, Jimmy, this is an instrumental that he's put together himself from Sweater de Fuzzer, his most recent album, and is it an album? It's an album. Like it's, you know, I did release it differently. I put it together on two tracks, two very long tracks, side A and side B, and I did that because I wanted people to hear the entire thing together. You know, it's kind of funny when you get into, you know, even myself, when you're listening to it and you get to the end of the 13 minutes, and then it just sort of blends and starts into side B. It's really nice. Like it works really well. In my opinion, it feels like, okay, I'm already here. I've given up my 13 minutes. Now it goes into the next one, and you just kind of blend and go to the next one. Whereas if it's tracks, you just, I'll listen to that track. I'll skip through and listen to that track. Yeah. Skip this and listen to that track. So that's not how I wanted people to hear it. That's not how I wanted people to listen to it. It's not like if I wanted to do that, I would just release a beat tape. It's a digital record.
Yeah. Essentially, yeah, something different as well. Like I'd never released anything with like long tracks before, unless it was on vinyl. Yeah, you know. So,
all right. Well, Jimmy, let's do it.
Let's do it. Yo, check 3,000. Yo. Sometimes I'm laying out a mess in the A4 to enter in dimensions into sentence like resort. Relax and kick back, these palms are swaying in the breeze. Paper out the window, now the words up in the clouds of weight. I keep the meters in some distance like the COVID. MC's getting squared, defeated like some posers on the road. We like rovers, ranging way above the limit, stretching out your gimmicks, never collapse. From the limit of the fresh breath, these guests step in direct and facing a maze and never try to intersect. These haze in my trays, making me to create waves and putting pressure to these tires like rhythm for days. On some laid back ways that blasted out my course, giving out the bits of changing their force. Some people headed for the credit, now the hours got the edit, roster full of bones. To work the system, take the debit and a better patience overall. I take it easy on the spending, arm's length away from that dead call. Like yo, what's up? Missing the banter in reality. Don't focus on what takes to make a salary. Nah, that messing up the vibe. They take away the vibe. Don't be a number, take the slumber at your stride and see what's up. The way they get cut crust to take away that voice if you be stepping out of line. Yeah. Bang.
Tune.
Boom.
Jimmy, that was sick, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming down here. But before we wrap it up, do you want to let people know where they can listen to your projects, where they can buy your vinyl, where they can see your DJ, where they can get a little bit more Jimmy Barr in their life?
You can go to the Groove Penguin Records webpage. That'll take you to the Bandcamp, and you can buy some of the music there.
And you can also stream it on Spotify as well?
You can stream it on Spotify. It's everywhere, man. Like digital distribution these days, they kind of put it out to everywhere. So you can get it on YouTube, you get it on Spotify, everywhere. So, yeah.
Any shout-outs before we wrap it up, man?
Shout out, man. I just shout out my crew. Shout out the Psyde Projects. Big shout out to everyone that's been a part of my life and been a part of, you know, helping me and supporting what I do musically and
on your journey.
And you know, big shout out to you, dude.
I can't tell you. And also you and Raiden, you got to shout out the family.
Oh man, always, of course. Yeah, that's a given. Shout out to Shout out to you guys. Shout out to Raiden. Hey.
All right, James, Jimmy, thanks for coming, man.
Thanks, bro.
I appreciate it. And look, you've been a tremendous help with me doing this as well, so I wanted to show my appreciation also, and I do appreciate it. So thanks, dude.
Anytime, bro.
Cheers.
Thanks, dude. Awesome.